Hi, welcome to British Dad Reacts. My name is John. Thank you for watching. And if you do like this kind of content, then it's always appreciated if you would consider leaving a like, subscribing, leave a comment or a recommendation. It's hard to overestimate how big this band were in the back end of the 70s and in through the early 1980s. They were huge. Dire Straits, So Far Away. This is from 1985.
So far I just can't see. So far away from me. Now you're so far away.
I'm going to go back a little bit here because it's just such a great track, and the sound, almost that kind of American sound really to some of the guitar. But this track was released in 1985 and was one of the hits from probably their biggest studio album, which was the 5th studio album for them, which was Brothers in Arms. So far I just can't see. So far away from me. Now you're so far away. Tired of being alone and being all alone. When you're so far away from me. Trying to make it out on the telephone when you're so far away from me. So far away from me. So far I just can't see. So far away from me. You're so far sun, girl, and I've been in the rain, and you're so far away from me. So far away from me. So far I just can't see. Oh, you're so far away from me. You're so far away. It's hard to believe that this track is 40 years old, from 1985. It's still got a certain vibrancy to it, but also there's something about the kind of soundscape that they created, and obviously they'd been around a few years, so they were experienced musicians. There's something quite comforting about this track somehow. I'm going to show another more recent version after, and talk a little bit more about the band and what was happening to them around that time in 1985. When Dire Straits kind of broke onto the music scene in the late 70s, and obviously probably the most famous track from that period was Sultans of Swing, it was something unusual because this was the time sort of like post-punk, new wave, electronic synth music was just kind of emerging. And yet Dire Straits seemed to exist in parallel to that somehow, with a different take on music, less synth and more kind of back to the original kind of rock, but just brilliantly done. And with Mark Knopfler, with his kind of now famous finger-picking style of guitar playing, which kind of, I don't know, made the band stand out, and his voice and so many things, and so many great, great tracks. Now, I was lucky enough to see Dire Straits live in 1982 in Birmingham in England, and I saw them again at Live Aid in 1985 in Wembley. And I reviewed one of their previous live performances when I covered Private Investigations, and they just had some brilliant, brilliant tracks, and were just a kind of great band. It just seemed to capture the imagination. They were global superstars around this time of kind of 1985. And yet at the same time, the band was really at the point of breaking up. Now let me just show you a more recent live version, and then we'll talk a little bit more about where the band were in 1985. Now this is from 2010, as it says here. So the band had broken up, and it was mainly Mark Knopfler with his old musicians.
All right. sun go down. You're so far away, so far away from me, so far just so far away from me. You're so far away. All right. Tired of being in love and being all alone. You're so far away from me. Make it out on the telephone. You're so far away.
This was 25 years after the track was released. In 1985, this was 2010 in Spain, Cordoba. And you can still see the crowd's reaction. It's amazing. And this track, I think, there's just something about it. You can imagine playing it in so many different scenarios, kind of when you're driving along in the car or just chilling at home or at a party or whatever it may be. Now, in the previous video, as I said, when I covered Private Investigations, I talk a little bit more about the band and their background and where they came from, how they formed in London in around 1977. Now, after they got big very quickly and heading up to kind of 1985 when this track was first released, they were touring relentlessly. And Mark Knopfler was always known as a kind of perfectionist musically and also in everything the band did. And that's why when you hear them live, they sound virtually the same as they do in the studio. So they were touring relentlessly. He was organising so much of the kind of the music. He became the dominant figure in the band. And he also began organising things like what they were doing, you know, on the tour and where they were going and some of the sound checks. And they were having to replicate instruments and hopping cities. And really, it led to the breakdown and the split up of the band. And that was really the kind of their peak. Mark Knopfler, obviously came back as a solo musician, was extremely successful. Film scores, music of his own. And obviously the Dire Straits tracks still a part of the sets that he performs even now. So this to me is one of the often overlooked tracks by Dire Straits when they really were at their kind of zenith of musical performances and abilities. So if you like this kind of content, as I say, it's always appreciated if you'd consider leaving a like, subscribing, a comment or a recommendation. Dire Straits, So Far Away. The track, when you listen to the lyrics, is a little bit about kind of loneliness, being apart from a lover and those kinds of things. I also think that it reflects where the band were at the time. Because in 1985 they were staying in separate hotels, they were travelling to gigs independently. The splits had begun to show. Thank you so much for watching.